So Toowoomba Cops back again, and we've got a few topics to talk about today, don't we, mate?
Mate, we do. In fact, actually, we've got that many. We recorded last night for this week's, and this is, of course, for the week after. But, mate, yeah, because there's so much to talk about. I mean, we managed 50 minutes yesterday, so yeah, this one's going to be. I'm quite excited about this one, only because some of the feedback we've got, and it's a couple of guys having a ransom. A couple of them are close mates of ours, and some from different jurisdictions, including the New Zealand. So it's obviously, some of our episodes have hit a chord. So I'm not going to mention any names in the guys that actually got in contact with us. We'll keep it completely confidential. So.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, it's no, that's good to hear, mate. Yeah, we've got had a big week here too. We just my brain's a bit melted, but it doesn't take much to stimulate it, Schultzy.
No.
So it's all right. We'll start off and we'll just go from there.
All right. Well, mate, we're just going to kick off here because I asked if anybody remember a few episodes ago in relation to the Northern Territory basically legalising OC spray or regulating OC spray for civilians to use. So, and I asked for some feedback, and I got some quite in-depth feedback from a guy that actually is a copper in WA. So I'm just going to read it out, just for everybody so they can sink in, and then, mate, I'll hand it over to you, and you can comment what your thoughts are.
Yeah, mate.
So in WA, there's still some grey areas around members of the public carrying lower grade OC spray. They can legally buy it from your particular stores, such as shooter shops, shoe repairs, key cutting kiosks, smoke shops like the notorious Cloud9.
Good old smoke shops. What can't you buy from a tobacconist?
Yeah. He said under Section 7 of the weapons regulations, capsicum spray is a prescribed weapon and can only be carried for the purposes of being used in a lawful defence in circumstances that the person has reasonable grounds. The spray is classified as a Schedule 2 weapon, being controlled weapon, which means you can own it legally within lawful reason. At the academy, they were basically handed over scenarios based on the fact of a member of the public drawing the spray. If a member of the public was to pull out and wave it around without lawful reason, then it's an offence. You can carry it for the purpose of a night field worker, finishing shift at 1 a.m. And then walking to their car, to go home, and they're worried about their safety. They can legally carry OC spray for the lawful reason of self-defence. It can only be utilised if the force is going to be greater than self-defence capabilities. Larger person, smaller person, we've spoken about that before.
Parity, disparity.
Yeah. Now, the worker can no longer, within reason, if they are carrying it on their person when they are about doing their daily business, and it's no longer a lawful reason. So if they're just going out shopping during the day or something, they can't actually legally carry it because they don't have any concerns. I think that'd be argumentative, I imagine, but yeah. There has not been too many instances in their district where OC spray in the hands of public have caused an issue. There has been the occasional search at a nightclub scene where it has been located on a person without lawful reason and has been seized for destruction. He said, basically, personally, if it's in the right hands and being used for the right reasons, I don't have any issues with members of the public having possession of it. It's nowhere near the strength of the spray that the police are issued. And if someone was to draw the spray on an officer, then it's up to the officer to decide and make a decision on what level of force is required to take action.
Yeah.
And he said, look, if somebody pulled OC spray on him, you probably think about using taser or something like that. It all depends on the circumstances, I suppose, that surrounds it. But, mate, what are your thoughts there?
Well, firstly, I think if you used it on a copper, I'd probably just wipe it out of my eyes and go, "That all you got?" Because we spray. We spray ourselves every time we use it anyway.
Yeah,
I'm a massive fan of anything that makes innocent people able to fight back against scum. That's the way I stand there. Like Northern Territory today, if you just look at Facebook, what's it? It's Thursday, the 24th of July, and I just saw a media release from the NT Police that they've arrested 3 youths, 117, 214 from memory. I had a quick browse. Basically, they carjacked two people and they've carried out ram raids with those stolen cars. They threatened them with edge weapons, and they went from there. I'm at the point where if you'd have threatened me with an edge weapon as a copper, you'd have got your head blown off. So
yeah,
I'm all for the public able to fight back and hurt these people and actually make them think twice before they just have this absolute ability to do whatever they want. And that's how I stand on that. If my wife was coming home from somewhere at night, she's left Woolies at 6 p.m. somewhere and she's coming back and she's got her hands full and she's got two kids and a couple of scum came up to her with a knife and stole a car, they're pure evil as far as I'm concerned. And I don't care what race they are. I don't care what gender they are. They're pure scum and they belong in prison. I'll make that clear from there. As far as her ability to fight back against them, it'd be fairly limited. I'm all for somebody able to force multiply what they've got. If they're not able to take someone, at least be able to take their eyes out and become a hard target. So what you'll find is these people are not brave. They often cry when they get arrested. So, or they carry on and think they're going to get away with it, but they squeal when they get pulled out of a stolen car and thrown face first in the ground. So I'm all for the public being able to fight back with levels of weaponry. The trouble is, I don't. I think people need to understand the limitations of pepper spray. We've used pepper spray plenty of times where old mate just kept coming, and now he's really pissed off. So it's not a magic bullet, and I hope that members of the public, coppers have it all the time. I just hope that members of the public don't rely on it to save their life. And if you've got an edged weapon coming at you, I wouldn't be using pepper spray because that could anger a purpose. Oh, look, this is where it gets complicated because defend yourself. If they're attacking you with it, absolutely use whatever you can, including the pepper spray. If you're being threatened by a group of youths with knives and they're going to take your car, they're going to lash out and stab you, and there's nothing that pepper spray is going to do. It might irritate their eyes a bit, but they're going to still do what they want to do. So I think it could possibly be an escalating factor. And that doesn't mean I don't want it banned. I think it should be rolled out. I really like the idea of people being able to fight back and being able to use some kind of weaponry to do that. We shouldn't live in fear. This is bullshit. So anyway, I just don't. I don't want some little old lady who thinks, "Oh, I'm right now. I've got pepper spray." It's like, well, you've got to step up, but you're not right yet. Like these guys, they can be pretty rough people, and it's not a magic bullet. It certainly helps, but it's not a magic bullet. What are your thoughts on
yeah.
that?
Mate, yeah, like there's one important point you mentioned there, and it's probably good to actually put it out so that people understand it as well. The laws that protect police in using force also protect the public to a certain
Yeah.
extent, and people need to understand that you are allowed to defend yourself.
Well, I'll just add on. Sorry, mate. I'll just add on there. The laws that give police the power to use force are actually to apprehend people and actually carry out our duty. So we're allowed to force entry into a house to carry out a lawful reason. We're out, under warrant or without a warrant, in certain circumstances, and also to make arrests, not just in self-defence.
Yeah,
Self-defence legislation doesn't mention a member of the police force. It says any person.
yeah,
Any person can defend themselves, and if there's a threat towards you that's death or serious that may cause death or serious harm to you or another person, any person may use force likely to cause death or serious harm against that person in order to protect life. It
yep,
doesn't say member of the police force in self-defense.
no,
Self-defense is self-defense.
yep, yep, and that from memory comes under the Criminal Code Act.
Yeah,
Well,
it
the
does.
Northern,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and we spoke about that, I think, in our very first episode.
One
Um,
of them. Yeah, yeah.
but look, mate, I completely agree with you, and it's also important to make the point that just because you carry OC spray, and look, I'll give the listeners just a bit of a story. Very early on in my career, we had to arrest this guy. He was big, he was strong, he was just he was a monster to the point that he didn't fight us, but he resisted
Mm.
to the point it took two coppers on each arm when he was ground stabilized to get his arm behind his back. That's how strong he was. He was just incredible. He was just about the Hulk.
Mm.
Anyway, we got into the cells, and he was carrying on that much, like, doing self harm, running into the perspex doors or the steel doors of the cells, going absolutely nuts to the point that we had to actually pepper spray him so we could enter the cell safely and restrain him. And we used, well, in the cells back then, that was the foam pepper spray,
Yeah,
which double. I think is it double the strength? I can't
I
remember.
can't remember. Someone will know, but I can't. It's definitely stronger. It's a lot
It is.
stronger than the stuff we used to use.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly, this guy, he was naked at the time. So, and we sprayed him from head to toe through the food hatch. And mate, it took half an hour for him to actually succumb to it.
mm.
He just basically wiped it off like it had not. He was obviously on drugs and all that sort of stuff. But it took half an hour, and this stuff is potent. It
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
and it got on his genitals, everything. He was hosed from
yeah.
top to bottom in this foam, and he fought through it. So just don't think the pepper spray is gonna be the answer because
Mate, pepper spray to us was basically food topping. It was we used it so much.
yeah,
When you get hit with it in recruits, you think it's the worst thing that's ever happened. But when you get dosed with it 3, 4 times a shift in places like Alice Springs and City Safe and wherever else, it it's no big deal. You understand it's going to burn, and it burns, and you get a bit uncomfortable. But you get it in your eye, you just wash it out of your eyes, and you're good to go.
yeah,
So I'm a big fan of it. To me, it was excellent. It was a brilliant tool, but only at the lower end. So I would still tell people my advice for whatever that's worth um, in self-defense would be if you're facing a lethal threat and if you can just give up your car and someone takes it because they've got a knife, it's much better to live to fight another day. Um, Especially the really cowardly stuff where they're attacking mums with kids coming out of Woolies in daylight hours and stealing their car. I would say it's going to be traumatic, but it's going to be a lot more traumatic for your kids if they watch their mum get stabbed to death in the car park at Woolworths. So
yeah,
to me, it would be if you've only got to use it if someone's trying to fight you or something like that. Yeah, sure, give them a dose, run away. It's a really good distractor to allow you to run. As far as stopping a group of people armed with weapons, and especially kids because they're immature and they've got no impulse control, and they're very capable of killing someone very quickly. Um, I would say be very very careful because it could aggravate the situation, and they may see that as the group to be tough, they've got to show that they're tough and stab you or whatever else. These kids play Grand Theft Auto all the time, where you just go busted and then they reappear on the street 2 seconds later. So they think that's how the world works. That they're potentially very dangerous. So
yeah,
I'd just say that my caution would be I'm totally for it. I think it's an excellent idea, and I love the idea that innocent people, anyone who says different, make it your loved one. And it's not just women here. I'm just saying women because they're the ones I'm thinking of. They're the ones who were carjacked today
yeah,
or yesterday, whenever it was. So I'm thinking, I think it was yesterday. So that's why I'm saying I'm all for it because it's a force multiplier for somebody who may not have the physical ability to fight somebody off. But yeah, be really careful in situations where someone has potentially lethal force because that's not good. It could aggravate the situation.
yeah. Yeah, definitely, mate. I'm actually just before we go on to the next thing, I'm going to tell another story. And I was off duty at the time. I was with friends at the Mindle Beach Market, and I'd just walked and gone to the toilet, and then I was coming back. So, if for anybody, Mindle Beach Markets, markets I have in Darwin,
Mm,
and it's on the foreshore. So, anyway, I just gone to the toilet, and I was walking back, and I have no idea why these guys decided to try and pick a fight with me. But anyway, I'm just walking back in plain clothes, and this guy's he's probably a bit shorter than me, like probably close to a foot shorter than me, but and he was complete Caucasian. And the guy he had with him was probably about I'd say a half caste, and he was about my
mm,
height. But this guy, the Caucasian, just took 2 steps to the side and shouldered me fair in the chest in
mm.
a group in a crowded there was people walking everywhere. Anyway, I've looked down on him. I'm going, mate, are you right? And he's gone, no, are you right? And I'm going,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I always carry the badge in my back pocket, and I pulled it out and I've showed my badge. I said, no, are you right?
Mm,
And he's basically, I've looked at him and gone, mate, you appear to be intoxicated. So I've grabbed him
mm.
and he's grabbed me by the shirt. As soon as I pulled my badge out, his mate took off
Yeah.
quicker than any. Anyway, he's tried to actually run away, and I said, "No, you're coming with me." And I've wrapped him up, just in the escort hold, arm up behind the back, and I knew the police cages were down because I'd seen him when I went to the toilet, so I just marched him through the crowd, basically bent over,
Mm.
and basically hand him over to the officers in Darwin. Now, the reason I tell that story is it really pissed me off. It's all right for me because I can handle myself. But
Mm.
what if that been, somebody else that can't fight, that doesn't know, the tactics that we know, that's not a police officer? Like I actually felt quite, oh, I don't know. It just to pick somebody out like that, it could have been an innocent victim. And I
And
was,
that's, yeah. Mate, to me, that is, yeah, and that's the trouble. It's like I'm a huge fan of seeing society fight back.
yeah,
And it's like, it should be like, you do whatever you need to do. If someone just randomly attacks you, it's like, no, you don't get to do that, champ. I'm not saying
yeah,
we be lawless and we just walk around shooting each other. I can
yeah,
see issues, there's in the States, there's a few issues where there'll be a verbal argument and then someone pulls a gun and blows their head off and it's considered, no, I was scared for my life. It's like, well, you were having a verbal argument. It wasn't like they produced a weapon at you. So
yeah,
I'm not saying I don't want to be like that, but I just want to. I'm all about freedom, and I'm all about being able to just go to the middle markets and enjoy yourself. And the police should be able to roam through there and be friendly to most people, and then go, clump, you're gone, clump, you're gone. Yeah, people at Mindle, like that's just ridiculous. You should be able to go out and enjoy yourself, and that's same anywhere. And these thugs
yeah.
just get free reign, and they never used to, mate. In the
No,
60s and 70s, some bloke could just go, whack, wake up
yeah,
yourself, boy. And that was the end of that. And there was no thought to pull a knife. Like, if you
no,
pulled a knife, you'd go to jail for 15 years. There was none of that. That didn't happen. So anyway,
yeah, yeah.
I think
Well,
that
look,
needs to be the second, the knife crime stuff. You don't ban them. Like this, I think Victoria's gone the wrong way. Like machetes are useful. They're a tool. Are you going to ban chainsaws? You're going to ban shovels? What are you going to
yeah,
ban? If you pull a machete and you threaten someone with it, jail. Just gone.
yeah,
Prison. Big fat
yeah,
jail. If you're not from this country, you're gone.
yeah,
First flight
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Anyway, and it's just,
Mate, yeah,
it works. Consequences for action works.
yeah, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And also, like, what you got to understand is, as soon as you start, adding these weapons and this weapons and all the legislation, it gets so convoluted,
Yeah.
and it puts a lot more stress back on the police force. Keep it simple. Stupid is
Well, mate,
the
like even
it's
farmers getting picked up having a pocket knife on their belt and then being, oh, you've got no lawful excuse at the moment in the middle of Coffs Harbour. It's like, mate, I forgot it was there. It's on my belt all the time. I use it for
yeah,
it's a tool. It's not a knife. It's not a weapon. It's not. It's just a tool. It's like, but then they're sort of treated the same as people who rob a shop with a knife. It's like, no, it's not
no,
like that.
yeah, that's right.
It's the consequence for this is severe. So don't, like if you got a knife walking down the street, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to scare anyone. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just, what we used to apply, an old Aboriginal fella in the middle of Darwin walking down through the esplanade down to the beach because he's cutting up some fish that they just caught. Yeah, righto. Just don't walk through the middle of the street. You're scaring everyone, countrymen. Oh,
Yeah,
that I didn't mean to. I just got to cut feed down there. Look, yeah, no trouble, mate. You
mm,
know, but yeah, that's where it becomes an issue. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. No, you're dead right. Look, the other thing, like, as much as it pissed me off, I was actually kind of thankful there was a bit of summary justice there. The fact that he picked on somebody he shouldn't have. So,
yeah, no, it's good. He might think twice before he does it again. But it would have been good that he bumped into you, and you might have been some psycho as well, and you went tung, 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 unconscious on the ground, broken jaw. Would have been fantastic. Yeah, and then his mate, what are you looking at, champ? You want to go too? It's just good. I kind of like it when dickheads get shoved in their place. It's really good. But anyway,
oh, definitely, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, mate, you're bringing up bloody memories now, Dame.
yeah, we probably should just move on. We just get
We
ranty
should,
otherwise.
yeah, mate. Otherwise, we just won't get onto the main topic now.
Yeah,
The What we're going to mention here, and this is from someone in New Zealand who's in the police there, and also an ex-cop who's a very good friend of ours.
XNT, yeah, yep,
Yeah, XNT. He got in. They both got in contact with us in relation to that Zach Rolfe. Look, there's a number of people that basically got in contact with us. But these two actually wrote quite, I suppose, detailed messages in relation to it. And I can tell you what, uh, uh, Elizabeth Armitage, you're not winning any friends, that's for sure.
Mm.
Not in the law enforcement side. But, mate, first of all, I'm just going to go through just the a point of view from New Zealand. So basically, they're actually quite shocked about the lack of tactical teams, the capabilities in the NT. And the reason, look, I thought we were pretty good, and the general cops were pretty good because we had to deal with situations fairly differently. But I'll just go on to what they said. So in New Zealand, every frontline cop on PST, I'm not really sure what that stands for. Um, Here is the same as GDs, deploys with sidearms and long arms. If anybody's actually read the recommendations, it was the fact that they would need, I think, specialized training for long arms, or only certain people are allowed to carry long arms. Whereas at the moment in the NT, if you want to take a long arm, mate, you can.
That's not the case. You've got to do the patrol rifle course now. So they've got the AR-15 patrol rifles in the stations, but you have to do a course. And I can't remember the length of it. I just remember that as a sergeant, I couldn't get on it in Trident, but there were a few other guys who did the patrol rifle course. So you've got to do a course, and it's not just teaching you about the firearm; it's actually teaching you about tactics used with it. So I don't know where that's gone. I'm not entirely sure of that. And anyone from the N2 who knows, get in touch and let us know.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be interesting because I know we got trained in the AR-15,
Yeah.
and then of course we could only carry it once we've been trained in it. But however, it wasn't restricted to a certain group.
No,
Um,
no.
if we wanted to take one out, we could.
But you had to be
And
qualified to carry it. Yeah.
yes, yeah, that's right. But I mean, but when it goes to 308s and all that sort of thing, all police officers were authorised to carry that because that was within our training when we came out of the college. So I'll just keep on going on here. He said double crew dog teams with trained armed offenders, squad members paired with dog handlers, armed offenders squad on call, special tactics group, which is probably counter terror, which is probably like our TRG or TRS, depending on who's in charge and what they want to call it. Is based in three major centres, and they have OPT teams for targeting high risk offenders. So, I said, surely this incident should show that GD need more tactical support rather than removing it. Um, so I think that's a very valid point. Um, we'll go more into it, and I will talk a little bit. I do know. Well, I had to work with, I suppose, to a certain extent, Elizabeth, so I can give you a little bit of insight. But I'm very careful about what I say because she has been quite good to me as well. You just had to know how to work with her. But he said basically Zach got hung out to dry for doing his job. This kind of stuff makes cops scared to do their job. And I know, Damo, you said, I think you gave an example of what happened when he got first put in custody and arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he said, he said, I mean, that's his main point in the fact that he was just very, very pissed off, and he thinks that really the NT police should look at stepping up their, I suppose, operations and all that sort of thing, rather than trying to restrict people. And I will add, some of these people that make these recommendations think you can walk up to people and give them a hug and everything will be all right. There's people we dealt with, and I know you, every other cop, every other frontline cop in every jurisdiction, you deal with shitbags, and they will not take any answer. They will just fight tooth and nail, and you've got to show force to resolve the situation, mate. So, what are your thoughts there?
Well, the other thing that used to happen a lot was if you turn up and you're very namby-pamby soft about things, what happens is the matter escalates massively. This was really true in Alice Springs. there can be times when I've seen the example. I've mentioned it before, Larapinta Valley Camp, where I won't go into it again. But basically, long story short, they turned up, they fumbled around, they tried to talk to people, they tried to do this. They had a woman screaming like a banshee. She just needed to be apprehended and taken away, and it would have been all over. Community members are screaming at her to just take her away, like just get rid of her. Anyway, then they decided not. They were indecisive. They were trying to talk. They weren't being assertive. And all of a sudden, the bad boys realised that they could have a crack. They'd made themselves scarce so they didn't get arrested. And then here's a chance to let's destroy the police car and bash these cops. So if the police turn up and they're assertive, I'm not saying you turn up and smash everyone. This is the trouble. We always get misinterpreted. We turn up. If there's a need to be assertive, just get in there and get the job done. With CitySafe, if two people were punching on, we didn't turn up and say, come on, gentlemen, please restrain yourself from being. It was whack, whack, spray, spray, get on the ground, bang, done. Just done. The job's done. And
Yep.
it was understood. Well, I'm not talking excessively. I'm just talking, oh, how good the cops have turned up and they've fixed it. It was, with the police are here, what you're doing is unacceptable, and it's done. And we're going to end it now. And if you try and fight us, we're going to win. We're not here to fight you. We're here to win. Because we're the community. We're not here to personally challenge you. We're telling you that your behaviour is going to stop, and you're going to be held accountable for your conduct, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, mate. I'll just cut in there. Something what people also need to understand. There's usually less injury by us dealing with that. We
Yeah,
have an acronym we use, and it's called the RISC. It's Rapid Intense Specific Competent.
yeah,
It means
RISC it is. Yeah, rapid
yeah,
instant. Yeah,
yep. And you take them down as quickly and as efficiently as possible,
mm,
and that is to de-escalate the situation and get the subjects under control. So there's no more damage to the public, damage or injuries to people. That's why we do it.
mm,
It's not. It's not. The problem is sometimes if you, I'm going to use a term here, fuck ass around.
mm,
Other people, bystanders, can get injured.
mm.
Police can get injured. Even the offenders can
Yeah,
get injured. So we deal with it as we see fit. We're trained to
mm,
take people down and ground stabilize them as safely as we possibly can.
mm.
But we also do it hard because you have to. You have to catch people by surprise, and you need to ground stabilize them and arrest them.
No one's ever won a war by losing the element of surprise. So the thing is, we're not saying that we're at war, but we certainly need to win what we're dealing with at the moment. And the fact is, you have to come in quick and go, wham, bam, it's all over. And I'm not saying you turn up and elbow them in the face, but it might be that you kick their legs out from underneath them and all of a sudden they're on the ground and their hands behind their back. And they just go, holy shit. And the other thing that
Yep.
I used to find that was really, really effective in CitySafe was you'd use very, very quick force to resolve the problem. So you might come up and do a rear takedown on someone who's punching someone and drop them into the ground really quickly, whip their hands behind their back and clack, clack, handcuffs are on. And then you lean down in their ear and just talk and just go, all right, mate, it's all over. Police, it's all over. What I'm going to do, I'm going to roll you over and search you and you're going to come out to the cage. You understand? And I would say 90% of the time they went, okay. That was the end of it because
Yeah.
they've just been completely defeated physically, and now they stop. Their conduct ends. If you walk up and go, "Come on, fellas," oh, come on, fellas, then they're not. We're not talking about reasonable people here. It's not going to work. It needs
No.
to be, bang, situation's over. All right, mate, everything's under control. You're coming with me, and it's done.
Yeah.
And they just go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
mate.
or
You're
they
exactly
resist, and
right.
you just put the force on and drag them out, and that happens too. It happens a lot. Circumstances are different. You can't apply a model to everything. It's just you have an objective and you achieve it the best way you can.
Yeah. Mate, that's exactly right. And I'm just going to throw a job here that I did when I was out at Millingimby, and my offsider, very good cop, worked with him for a long time. I don't know if he's still in the job, so I won't mention his name. Or however, this was completely. I mean, everything's completely legit what we
Mm,
do, but I just I don't like to name people, and
mm,
especially with some of the things in the police at the moment, they like to dig into things that
mm,
aren't appropriate. So. Look, what happened was, and this is the case where I had a lot of knowledge on this guy that we were dealing with, and he was known for basically dealing drugs in the community, quite a high level. I knew him really well. The information I had gave me grounds to search him and his car in relation to drugs, because that's basically the only reason he ever came into the community. But there was a lot of other evidence to support my suspicion. So anyway, I said to my offside, I said, look, you don't know this guy. This guy was obviously on roids. He's built up. He's strong. He's tough. He always argues and always tries to stand over people. That's his way of doing business. And I turned to my partner and I said, we're going to pull the car over. We're going to search for drugs. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. He's going to arc up. And I said, it happens every single time. As soon as he arcs up, you pull your taser.
Yep.
As I said, we are not fighting this guy. We had just pull your taser. He will carry on, but he will comply. And mate, that's exactly what happened. As soon as he arced up, as soon as we said, no, mate, we're going to search your car under the misuse of drug act. And he's turned around and basically started to try and bully us. And my partner's pulled his taser and he said, step back, blah, blah, blah. And he's going, what, are you going to tase me? And I turned around and I said, yes, we will, if we need to.
Yeah.
You sit down over there. And it was, so that's the kind of level of force. People sit there and go, oh, that's very confronting. But that's actually reducing injury.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. So that's how we do our business. And it worked perfectly. We searched his car. We actually didn't find anything because he's probably pretty smart about the way he goes about his business. He has it hidden in places. But at the end of the day, we also keep him in check because he knows that we will not be, bullied.
No.
So,
and back to the tactical teams and trained specialised squads and things like that, a lot of them work really, really well. They are a massive force de-escalator because there is presence. The first point of force is presence. So the fact, I remember, I've got a great example where we had a shooting in Catherine where a particular numpty had gone out and anyway, look, the victim, and I put my fingers up in inverted commas there, had been ramming the car. Basically, it was the new boyfriend of this fella's ex-girlfriend and all the rest of it. And anyway, these blokes were just a couple of rednecks, and they went back and grabbed their 22 250 and went out looking for him. And he started ramming them again, so they took a couple of pot shots at him back through their car. Anyway, it created a hell of a response. So we responded to the job. The victim actually drove his car into the secure area of the back of the Catherine police station and just parked and got out covered in blood because one of the rounds had actually come through the windscreen and gone through the rear vision mirror and showered him in glass. And we thought he'd been hit with shotgun fragments because he had little pepperings of glass all over his face and upper body. But it wasn't that. It was a 22 250 caliber rifle round that had gone straight through the front windscreen, gone through his rear vision mirror and peppered him in glass. So he's a lucky boy because the 22 250 will blow a hole in your head. So, so he's done that. And anyway, we were looking for this guy for the next few days and we had TRG support. Excuse me. And anyway, one of the best fact of this is he was arrested, the offender was arrested completely with no force except for the application of handcuffs and then being searched. That was it. Because we turned up to the house at all these different places and I had TRG with me and they wear camouflage uniforms. They have AR-15s with camouflage paint all over them. They had a camouflage, like a balaclava that all you can see is their eyes with a combat helmet on. And I just walked forward in my plain clothes and knocked on the door and said, we're looking for this bloke. And he goes, I've told you before, he's not here. And he's starting to get a bit annoyed that I'm there. And I said, oh, look, we've escalated this search. We need to get hold of him. And I just remember leaning back and one of the TRG operators stepped out of the darkness and into the light and it became apparent of who was looking for him. And this fella just went, I'll let you know if I find him. It was perfect. It was, and all of a sudden, I reckon it was within 2 hours he was in custody because he basically gave up. He said, if the boys are coming and they're armed with big long rifles and they're all camouflaged up, I'm out. He didn't want to get apprehended, but as soon as the force escalation was, the threat of the force escalation was at lethal level, he went, oh, I'm out, boys. I'm just going to give up. Yeah, and that was the end of that. So that it certainly works when you know you can't beat the police. Quite often, the police don't have to do anything. People just stop. Yep. And if you can have them out there, because the other thing, TRG go into the communities all the time, but people know them. You got to remember a lot of TRG officers, they're all ex-uniform coppers. they've all worked as uniform cops. A lot of them, I would say the overwhelming majority of them, have worked in remote communities. They understand how you talk out in those communities and how you conduct business out there. What people fail to remember is that police are there 24/7. They're having constant interaction with the community. It's only that everyone blows up and said police shouldn't be in communities when something, every few, very rare, I would say every 10 years, something big goes down in those communities and everyone goes against the police. But you got to remember they're there all the time and shit goes down all the time. And the overwhelming majority of the time, they deal with it perfectly. And sure,
Yep.
there might be mistakes, but they deal with it and no one gets hurt. And it's a miracle that no one gets hurt so often. It's a
Yeah.
miracle that there aren't more shootings in the Northern Territory. It really is. And it's not a miracle. It comes down to the fact that a lot of the time coppers know when to back off and just let things burn out and all this sort of stuff. But that escalation with those specialised teams is excellent for gaining control of a situation. You can't beat it. So I agree completely that the Northern Territory shouldn't be stopping those kind of teams. They should be bringing them in legitimately and having them well trained and good to go, and then
Yep.
responding appropriately. Because how many coppers in the NT get assaulted constantly?
Yeah.
Should the
Yeah.
NT police just take constant beatings from members of the public? No.
No.
It's no. No.
Yeah, mate, you're
We were
exactly
both
right.
assaulted. How many times we were both assaulted? And we're just two.
Yes,
I
mate.
was assaulted heaps of
And look,
times.
and we didn't always report it because sometimes it's minimal and you just get on with your job and arrest them but yeah, I mean, plenty of time. The one thing I actually hated about I hated the fact that when you had to do an assault police, you had to put yourself in as a victim.
Yeah, that used
Um,
to shit me too. Yeah,
ticking that button, going, yeah, nah, you know what? I'm not a fucking victim, but
yeah,
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 but in this case, I am because yeah, technically I was assaulted,
yeah,
and um, one of them, which I told ages ago, was the assault was actually poking me in the chest.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's assault. That's assault every day of the week. So
Absolutely.
whether you're a member of the police force or not,
No, and that
so
was an extremely condescending, very, very nasty, manipulative person who did that, and he just thought he
it
was
was.
above the law, and he bloody well wasn't. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, mate. Look, the amount of stories you're bringing them up all the time, Damo. But I'm going to move on because otherwise we'll be here all day on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
on the
No, we'll move on, mate.
just
We'll move on.
yeah. So look, this is a very good friend of both of ours. And they won't be able to track him down because we've got many, many very good friends in the
Yeah,
police force. Mate, this is going to go on for a bit. So he said, just listen to your potty about the coronial shit fuckery
mm,
created by our old employer.
yeah,
You both spoke about a couple of things that struck a chord with him. He said, now to enter my rant.
mm,
Separation of powers. Since leaving the job, I've worked the last 13 years in various regulatory agencies in Queensland. This has really opened my eyes and given me time to reflect because I basically do fuck all most days.
mm,
um, he said the disempowerment driven by someone else's self interest. And, mate, I would completely agree. A current workplace basically. Um, so, as to regular offence officer taking legislation action under the Act, appetite must be first checked. Now, the appetite is on a case by case basis, and this is only known after consultation with high level executive staff. This is not the executive. This is not the executive level staff applying judgment to a set of facts whilst considering the legislation or a relevant policy or procedure. It is, in fact, an application of their own self interest as to whether action may have to impact on their own career.
yeah.
Um, now, mate, I look, I will back that up 200%.
Oh, yeah.
It's as you've been made well aware, I get quite highly involved in politics, and it is all fucked.
Mm,
I excuse the language, but it is. The amount of manipulation, and everybody does it to make themselves look better, and I hate it.
mm,
Um, so yeah, completely agree. And it all comes down to the government of the day and their own self-interest to what looks best for the political team. And they need to stop that. And he just said it's a corruption red flag.
Oh
It
God,
definitely
yeah,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, mate, I'll just keep on going here.
Mm.
Regulating or policing is not a popularity contest. We all know being regulators or police is about being adequate,
Adequately.
adequate. Yes. Sorry, fucking hell. Knowing what is right and wrong, taking action that best suits the circumstances, all while remaining objective. Mate, couldn't have said it better myself. If you follow the legislation, policies, and procedure, you rarely go wrong. If you, as an officer who is disempowered to the extent that you may be applying unreasonable metric that is based on someone else's self-interest, the system's fucked.
Yeah,
So, fucking hell, he words things really well.
he's a wordsmith, isn't he? Yeah, yeah, oh, mate. Yeah, I'll knock about bloody GD's copper from Catherine way back in the day. Mate, what a legend. And there's heaps of them, so you won't work out how he is. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said it could go on for days about what he's seen and heard, but keeping the narrative with the current establishment that is driving it, he has to report on the you are a racist if you don't subscribe to a certain agenda. So that's a very, very good point.
Yeah.
Mate, you want to touch on that?
Well, we can apply what's gone on there back to the coronial. So if you break it down to its absolute bones, what happened was an offender, picture a white man, a white male, because you can't offend them. So a white male has been a criminal for a very long time, is a serious domestic violence offender, has evaded police capture by utilising an axe, and then a team has been sent to a community to apprehend that person where he lives, and it's his home community. So surrounded by family who may not have the police interest at heart, who may be actually trying to protect this person. How would that be handled? If that then white male offender pulled out a set of surgical scissors, and stabbed one of the police in the shoulder, and then what's not mentioned and what I've been pointed out to by another person within that, within the coronial inquest itself, it actually points out that there were two DNA profiles found on those particular surgical scissors, one being Zach Rolfe and one was the other constable in the and his name's in the public. That was Adam Ebel, who I know him quite well. So there were two DNA profiles on that knife. So he did actually make contact, whether it penetrated the skin or not. He made contact with the skin with a potentially lethal weapon with both police officers. So he stabbed one and attempted to stab the other. If that Caucasian male had have done that and the police shot and killed him, there'd be no dramas whatsoever. No dramas whatsoever. That's where it comes down to. It's like, righto, it's not politically much of we don't have much of a political appetite for this, and especially after the George Floyd killing in the USA, and not very long after that, where there were huge demonstrations. We're not going to go into that because that's a shit show. We're not going to go into the demonstrations and what went on in the US after that. But what happens is these political motivations that become noisy in the community override the calm, steady hand of legislation. And the fact is, like I said last time, is an Aboriginal male over the age of 18, is he an adult human being? And I say, of course he is an adult human being. Is there a set of standards that is required by adult human beings, regardless of race, gender, beliefs, anything else? If you live in Australia, the law applies to you, every single one of us, equally. And it's like, I don't know if it was applied. I just don't think it was there. I don't know. You got to remember, we don't care about people's backgrounds. We're not interested in that. We just don't care. We act on what was in front of us. We turn up and we go, righto, 1 + 2 = 3. There's 3. Bye. And this is what people forget. It was like and they go, oh, but you're racist. It's like, well, hang on. I went out and cuddled the victim I comforted the victim of this perpetrator who was the same race. I
Yeah.
spoke to the uncle of this offender who was the same race and the same gender, and I didn't
Yeah.
shoot him. And it's like you
And
can't apply it. It's not racism.
no,
Anyway,
exactly. And like we get so much thanks from those
yes,
victims
and
for actually
thank
protecting.
you for that in those communities. Oh, mate, it's a show. And the thing was,
Yep.
I nearly said his name then. Anyway, I won't do that. He has come back and said if it doesn't suit the political agenda of the day, they look for a scapegoat. And it's real easy to sling a young constable doing his job under the bus. And then and it's interesting this week that the Northern Territory government is reviewing the Coroners Act to see exactly what when it comes to the what is it? The coroner has discretion. The discretion is what I'm looking for of the coroner to include and exclude certain information that's required to investigate the death of a person and report on the cause of death and provide recommendation to avoid it in the future. When the discretion of that expands so far beyond the realms of admissible evidence into anything like would ever be a criminal court, and then brings all of that back together in a so-called coronial inquest to find out what caused the death and how we could prevent it in the future, and basically blows the budget of that inquest out to what would be a royal commission, then I would say that coroner has really pushed the limits of their discretion and stepped outside their bounds. And
Yep.
it was interesting that the government provided so much money towards that. I think last time I saw it was the NT Police, and the combined cost so far was about 7 million, and they said that didn't even include the Department of Health costs, which were going to be more millions again. And I saw a rough figure of $11 million for an inquest into the death of
Yeah.
an armed person who was shot and killed by police. It happens.
Yeah.
It's happening more and more in Australia because we are tolerating armed offenders so much. They're not getting punishment, so they think they can do it. When they try and attack a cop, they get shot. So
Yep.
it's like, oh, the
And
consequence there was lethal force. So,
well, mate, look, I'll go back. I'm going to touch on a couple of things there, just on that last comment. The fact is, every week you hear about a cop shooting an offender. Whereas
yeah,
back years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you'd hardly hear about it.
no,
Um, the other thing I'm going to sit there and say, people they sit there and go, oh, but what about their childhood? This is the reason. Well, no, it's not. I'm sorry, people. I'm going to lay something out here. We saw offenders and victims our entire career, and I've I came to the idea. Basically, people make a choice. I've seen people go through horrific childhoods, and they are the nicest, most compassionate people I've ever met. And I firmly believe that people make a choice.
oh yeah,
So, also, what isn't mentioned, the fact that he chased officers, I think it was the day or 2 days before, with a tomahawk.
yeah,
Now, if that was me, I probably would have tasered him or shot him.
yes,
That's basically what we're looking at. Also, I'm going to add in there my father, who's very level-headed. He's very impartial, especially as he gets older in his age. He seems to be well. I mean, he's always been nice, but he just seems to be more understanding. I think. He said to me, like, because we're talking about the case, and I said, "Well, Dad, do you realise that the officer was stabbed?" He goes, "Was he?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, they never said that in the media." I
mm,
said, "No, because it doesn't fit the narrative."
no, yeah,
So, this is the problem is the media
mm,
also has a duty of care to the public to make sure that they report the correct information.
yeah,
And I would put it, I reckon there would be a case there. And look, we can go into the Higgins one, and, where things get railroaded, because you can actually influence the public
yeah,
dangerously to the facts if you leave out certain parts or certain facts in
yeah.
relation to the case.
And I mean,
So,
media, I don't know, I'm a bit more skeptical. I sort of don't care what the media says. But when it comes out in a coronial, where you kind of overlook things and
yeah,
put more weight on certain things than others, that's where I'm concerned, because that's the judiciary. The coronial, the coroner sits a little bit by themselves, but they are certainly a member of the judiciary. I mean, Elizabeth Armitage is a sitting judge in the Northern Territory. She just happens
Yep.
to hold the title of coroner as well, which is a part-time role.
Yep.
So she acts as the coroner, but she's also a sitting local court judge, as far as I'm aware. So,
Yep.
I mean, that is the judiciary, and reading through that and knowing what we know about communities, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't serve in situations or in organisations where you are held to that level of account. You don't have, you got heaps of power and heaps of privilege, and it's like, no, you don't. You've got shit tons of responsibility, and the fact is, you've got that authority that you must apply, and if you don't apply it, you're considered corrupt. So
Yep.
it's an authority, but it's an authority that comes with massive responsibility and enormous accountability, and I would
Yeah.
say almost inhuman accountability these days. It's just you can't even have a human response to something really violent, and without them going, "Oh, you weren't professional, or you weren't this or weren't that." It's
Yeah.
like you've got to be kidding me. I remember a
Well,
couple of
mate,
years ago, the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory was assaulted outside a shop by a woman, and all she did was throw something, a bit of liquid in her face. It was nothing, and she moved on. She was devastated, and she was mortified, and she was very fearful for her safety and all this. That's the Chief Minister. How do you think a 22-year-old constable is having that happen 3 times a shift? And it's not just some liquid, it's a fist to the
no.
face, or it's a kick as you're trying to put someone in a cage, or as they're
Or
twisting
spit.
say it again,
Yeah. Or spit.
spit.
Or blood.
To have someone, imagine having a complete stranger who you know is a criminal and someone you're arresting, wait until a person talks so their mouth is open and then deliberately spitting not just mouth saliva, but sputum, but snot that they've into their mouth. They've waited for that other person to open their mouth, the police officer to open their mouth before they spit that into their mouth. What do you think should happen
Yeah.
to them? And that's what
Yeah.
happens.
Yep.
I love one of the magistrates in the Northern Territory a few years ago says basically no human being would have the ability to have so much self-control to not immediately lash out at somebody spitting in their face. And he
Yeah.
said basically, I think he put a little rule of thumb in there that you've got about 5 seconds. If you respond in 5 seconds, it's just a normal response. If you plan your response, then you are assaulting that person and you're acting beyond your bounds. But I thought, bloody oath, because if someone spat on me, they were getting flogged,
Yep.
and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
and so they should. And if a member of the public was to be spat on and then they beat somebody unconscious for doing that, I would say they acted reasonably. I'd probably hold the
Yeah.
police to a higher level. I
Well,
would expect a member of the public who'd just been spat in their face by a complete stranger, who then retaliated with extreme physical violence against that person, to have acted rationally.
yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
feel about how disgusting that act is.
And look, mate, I'm just going to add something in there. I had a case years ago in relation to where an officer was assaulted by being spat on, and this guy, like you said, basically waited until the perfect time, spat on him, and
Mm,
all that sort of thing. And remember, these people have to go through checks,
mm.
and they can't have sex or intimate,
No,
relations for 6 months until like any diseases and all that sort of
yeah,
stuff are
yeah.
figured out.
Sorry, mate. It's 3 months from the testing. Yeah, I know.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. And look, there was a case where one of my colleagues, he was spat on in the relation to the arrest, and I thought the guy should have been remanded in custody straight away. I wasn't the sergeant, and anyway, they got bail. And anyway, I sat there and I go, no, well, it's completely wrong. And we went out and got him in a breach of bail a couple of days after. And exactly the same circumstances happened. As we put him in the cage, you could hear him hock up
Mm,
because he was just getting ready to spit. And I turned to him and I said, "You spit on me, I break your fucking jaw."
yeah.
And he swallowed it.
Yeah.
So and because that was the level of showing force, going, this is a consequence to your actions,
Yeah.
because I will not be spat on. I will not go through, testing and all that sort of thing for the next 3 months,
Mm,
um, in relation to this, because I find that completely unacceptable.
no, correct.
So,
Yeah. So
um,
we bring it. Yeah, we bring it back to where we're talking about the you know, acting, using the legislative outline where we think it should be applied. No, 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 no. The law exists. The government is not for private enterprise. If you want to do whatever you want to make a business work and act within the law still, but I mean, do whatever you want to do in business and run your business however you want, go into private enterprise. If you want to
Yep.
be a member of the government and a high ranking government official, I'm sorry, your creativity is almost gone. You act within legislation and you act within standard operating procedures. It might be that you come up with operating procedures within that government realm in order to comply with legislation. But if you want to be creative and you want to make up a wonderful business, whatever else, there's plenty of room for that in private enterprise. When you work for the
Yep.
government, you don't get to fit your agenda because you don't want to hurt your career. You act
Yes.
under the legislation that exists. Simple. And people on the ground who are regulators or police officers or any statutory authority on the ground, they must act exactly within the legislative bounds that are given to them and the standard operating procedures and general orders of their organisation, be it police or whatever. And that's how it is. You don't get to go, oh, no, there's no appetite for that. Well, I'm sorry, the legislation says this. End of conversation.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're corrupt. Simple as that. You're utilising the public trust and the public money. They have elected officials who bring in legislation. If people don't like what the politicians have brought in, the people get to vote the politicians out and they get to change the legislation. The bureaucracy must comply. That's it. The bureaucracy is just the mechanism of government and they comply with the legislation. They don't get to say, oh, there's no appetite for this. Too bad. They'll change the law.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a pretty good rant. We could probably cut it away.
Well, mate, actually, funnily enough, we've just responded inadvertently without reading it out to everything else the officer said. So, or the officer said. So it's, mate, yeah, you're exactly right. And like the only other thing I said, the silent majority of Australia is under siege because basically the problem is also, and I mentioned this earlier, their media are also dictating, depending on which side they sit on what they want to report. And it's extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just going to add another thing in, and I said it before. I am reasonably politically involved, but I'm held at arm's length, and there's a reason for that. Because one, I cannot be bought. I'm impartial, and I'll say exactly what I think because it's for the right reasons. And I will not go along with an agenda because for favoritism. I just disagree with it, and that's the way we worked in the police. As police officers, we, like you said, you are disinterested. Yes, you investigate. You don't have an agenda, and look, everybody, whether it's a politician, whether it's a magistrate, needs to be exactly the same. And I will actually just give a call out. There are some excellent magistrates out there.
Of course there are.
That are very impartial. And I'll talk about that more in another episode because I knew quite a lot of them personally, and they would smash the police as much as they smash the offenders or or even witnesses.
They weren't. It wasn't. They would just smash what was against the law. They would just, or they would smash some level of conduct or a lack of. So an omission is as bad as an action. So they would smash an omission by police of not carrying out a reasonable investigation, or they would smash the conduct of an offender. So an act or omission was act, omission, or series of events was basically the layout of an offence. And they would attack, but it wasn't that they were physically, they would just point out why it's wrong. It wasn't that there was an emotion. So that's where they were really good. When they're completely impartial, you know where you stand. But when you get up there and someone reacts emotionally to evidence being presented, and you just go, oh, no, we're in a bad way here. We've got someone who's against us, and they're meant to be the one judging it. And I've seen that happen too. But anyway, we won't rant, mate. That'll probably wrap us up. That's a pretty good rant. Anyway, this could just be, what are we up to, mate? We must be pushing episode 80.
No, this is episode 81, mate.
Oh, so buggered. I lost count. I don't know what day it is, mate.
Look, a big thank you to everybody that's listened, and it is getting bigger. And like I think Damo, you said in the last one, mate, we're making some changes and we're doing some stuff, and we got some real good ideas in the pipeline that we're running with. Mate, maybe we'll finish it off with, again, we'll just let everybody know the 18th of October.
Yeah,
That is going to be an epic day. It's building up. I've got in contact with a few people. I'm actually going to go and look at one of the places where we're going to hold it personally, because I've got to head down the coast not this weekend, next weekend, and I'm going to check out a few places and all that sort of thing. And I think anybody that can come along, you don't have to be a police officer, an ex-police officer, your frontline service. All those are, of course, welcome. But even if you're just a member of the public and listen to this,
absolutely.
and you come
Welcome to
in
all.
and, well, the other thing, you'll get to ask us a question straight, face to face.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell us we're
and we'll
dickheads or whatever you want. We don't care.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Just
And
remember, we're not victims and we'll fight back. So, it's all good.
yeah.
But
Exactly.
the big one, the most important thing I want to bring up today, and very, very serious, mate, really serious matter, this one.
Oh,
Yeah. Have we got any cartons of the week, mate?
well, mate, not at the moment, because it was we only recorded last night. But I think we really need to push this, especially
Yeah, yeah.
across the police force, but even frontline services.
Yes.
We need cartons. We need. This is how we operated in the Northern Territory, and it wasn't because we were drunken idiots. It was because it was just a standard that we
It
held.
pulls the team together. Cartons of the
Exactly.
week. It's a team sport. All emergency services, defence, everything else. Try doing it by yourself. You won't last 20 seconds. It's a team sport,
Yep.
and morale is important. And it was always good to have a good old ribbing and a bit of banter in the team. So we need your cartons, folks. We need your
Of
cartons.
course.
Carton of the week. Let us know.
And also, to that point, mate, you and I have probably received just about as many ribbings, sorry, as the majority of people in the frontline services.
Oh, the
You
butt
and
of
I
many
have
jokes,
to
mate.
eat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But let us
So
know. So that's the most important thing we're going to talk about today. We need to know what the cartons are. We'll dish them out.
exactly.
We don't care where you're from, what jurisdiction, what country you're from. Let us know. Carton of the week. For those playing overseas,
Because
I think it's called a case around the place as well. For those in the UK, if you can buy a box of bottles of beer, that's a carton. So if you're in the UK and someone's
yep.
stuffed up and they need a carton, we'll dish it out.
Well, exactly right, mate. And look, if you owe a carton and you come to this function on the 18th, you can pay your carton then. So if you actually manage to get through unscathed, you could actually do the day for free.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. No, that'll do us. That's good. That's good. So carton of the week, very important thing. And I reckon we'll be
It
back
is.
next week, Schultzy.
Yeah, mate. Yep. This is Two Ordinary Cops, and we're finishing off for this week. We'll catch you next time.